A single mom is abducted by her cheating spouse. Can help arrive in time? Part 1. Backstory / posted at 9:12 p.m. I'm a 32F, mom to two small feral miracles, Jonah, 7, and Isla, 4. If you've seen me around school pickup, I'm the one with the faded dinosaur toad and the coffee that tastes like survival. Their dad, my ex, Eric, 34M, and I separated 9 months ago after a slow-motion implosion that people call irreconcilable differences when they're being polite, and constant gaslighting plus 1,000 little broken promises when they're being honest. We never married legally. Long story involving a courthouse that lost power and a man who never rescheduled. But we did the whole house / family / co-parent thing for 8 years. Our custody plan is stitched together from a judge's stern warnings, a PDF, and my calendar app. If you'd asked me a year ago whether Eric would ever scare me, I would have said no. He's charismatic in the way people who always get away with things tend to be. Charming with waiters, dangerous with money, allergic to consequences. But sometime last summer the charm started curdling. He got jealous of my group chat. Yes, really. Side-eyed the new Wi-Fi password like it was a lover, and made these little comments. I'd feel better if you kept your location on, babe. What are you hiding? Why would you need a lock on your phone if you weren't doing anything? It was like being audited by someone who didn't understand math, but loved red pens. There were tiny triangulations. He'd accidentally text my best friend Tasha, 33F, from my phone after borrowing it to turn on the flashlight. He'd tell my Aunt Denise, 58F, professional skeptic, that he was worried about how tired I looked. He posted a Father's Day photo of him and the kids that somehow made it look like I was a visitor in my own life. I felt watched even when no one was there. At the time, the affair was just a suspicion wearing expensive perfume. I found a receipt for 2 cocktails on a night he told me he was at the gym and a dry cleaning ticket for a silk dress I did not own. He denied, then deflected, then cried. He said I'd pushed him away with my vibes. This, I have learned, is when someone tries to make you the project manager of their conscience. When we split, he got a studio across town that smelled like lemons and cologne, and I got the apartment with the peeling balcony and a good light. We became 2 households with a fragile shuttle route between them. Drop-offs at the library because it felt neutral, a color-coded spreadsheet for lunches, a photo of a purple unicorn packed in Isla's backpack, so she'd feel like both homes had the same sky. Red flags kept waving even as we negotiated therapy and holidays. Once, he lost Jonah's asthma inhaler, then sent a dozen frantic texts blaming me, only to find it in his car cup holder. Another time he brought the kids back an hour late and insisted my clock was wrong. It was not. Time is not subjective, Eric. He borrowed my car for an oil change and returned it with the dash camera mysteriously unplugged. He grinned and said, "You're welcome," like I'd be grateful he'd rewritten my day. If this sounds like a guy who might cheat, it's because he probably did. But the part one wasn't prepared for was how much cheating and control like to hold hands. People think infidelity is about bodies. Sometimes it's about power and the story you tell yourself while you take it. I'm writing this now because things got bad, then worse, and now I'm listening to the fridge hum like it's trying to warn me in Morse. I need to put the beginning somewhere solid before I get to the part where the floor drops out. I need a breadcrumb trail for myself in case someone later asks, "Did you see this coming?" Short answer, yes and no. The red flags were a parade. I clapped anyway to keep the kids from crying. Part 2. The breaking point / posted at 11:03 p.m. 2 weeks before everything. I told Eric I was tightening boundaries. The kids were doing okay, mostly, but Jonah had started asking why Dad's phone always beeped after bedtime and why Dad got mad laughy when I said no to last-minute plan changes. I'd begun a new job at the nursery down the street, plants don't lie, and I needed consistency like oxygen. My boundary was simple: no drop-ins, no swapping nights without at least 24 hours notice, and no using emergencies to blow up my schedule unless someone was bleeding. Eric smiled like a man about to pitch a pyramid scheme. "Babe, co-parenting requires flexibility. Boundaries aren't concrete walls. They're fences with gates," I said. "We can coordinate. But the gate closes at 8 p.m. He leaned back in the chair, scanning the living room like a realtor. "You know, if I had full custody, you wouldn't have to stress like this." And there it was, the first real mention of custody as leverage, not care. We're not doing that, I said. The kids need both of us. They need reliable both of us. He shrugged. Courts look at stability. I make more money. Your car's a hazard. My car, the Honda with the sainted 180,000 miles, had, coincidentally, started acting weird. The check engine light flickered after Eric's helpful oil change. 2 days later, it stalled in the school parking lot after a drop-off. The mechanic found sugar in the gas cap. Who does that? Teenagers in movies. Men who need your world small. Then came the emergency. Eric texted during my shift. Isla fell at the playground. Swollen wrist. Come to urgent care on 5th now. I told my boss. Ran out. Heart slamming. When I got there, Isla was fine, playing with stickers, no brace, no intake paperwork. Eric gave me a sheepish look. False alarm. But since you're here, maybe we can talk? I took Isla home without talking. He followed, hovering at the curb like a moth. Later that night, my phone vanished. I eventually found it under the couch cushion, passcode changed, half my texts opened. I was just trying to add my fingerprint to the emergency contacts, he said when I confronted him. I changed the passcode again. I slept with the phone in my pillowcase like a teenager. Last Friday, he showed up 15 minutes early for pickup, and when I stepped onto the porch, he held out a coffee the color of forgiveness. Truce, he asked. Let's talk like adults. I'll drive you to the mall. Neutral ground. We can walk and figure out spring break. I said no. He asked again, softer. I'm trying, he said. You think I want to fight? I just want my family back. He put the coffee in my hand and stepped back, palms open. It tasted sweet. Too sweet. I didn't finish it. The next day, a letter arrived from his lawyer about revisiting custody in light of concerns maternal reliability. My hands shook. I called Tasha, who said, come over. We'll build a spreadsheet that would make God blink. And change your Wi-Fi password again, because I don't like how confidently he's guessing. I texted Eric, please route everything legal through counsel. Pickup stay as scheduled. No drop-ins. He replied instantly, copy, but you're being dramatic. Let's talk tomorrow, just 15 minutes. I'll bring donuts for the kids. I muted the thread. I turned off read receipts. I told myself I was done with debates on the porch. If you've survived someone rearranging reality mid-sentence, you know how precious a locked door can feel. You also know how flimsy a lock is if someone decides it's merely decorative. Part 3. The abduction / posted at 1:44 a.m. I didn't plan to get in his car. I need everyone to know that first. If you're skimming, if your finger is hovering over the comment button ready to type, why didn't you just? Please read this sentence twice. There are 100 choices that look obvious when you're not in a body that's learned to manage someone else's temper. My body is fluent in diplomacy under duress. He arrived on Tuesday with the promised donuts. 3 minutes before pickup, the box glossy with frosting. He stayed on the sidewalk, hands visible, the picture of compliance. I'll wait outside, he called, loud enough for the neighbor watering her hanging petunias to hear. Just wanted to drop these for the kids. I opened the door with the chain on. He extended the box through the gap. He was smiling the way people smile when there's an audience. No talk today, he said. I hear you. Boundaries. I took the donuts. He nodded and started down the stairs. Then he paused, turned, and said, casual. By the way, your right rear tire looks low. Might be a slow leak. If you're heading to the school, I can follow you to the gas station to fill it. He said it like a neighbor, like a person who participates in the species. I glanced at the Honda. The tire did look sullen. I pictured the kids standing with their tiny backpacks, the line of cars, my car wheezing at the curb. 2 minutes, I told myself. Aaron, go. I locked the door, grabbed my keys, and stepped onto the porch. He was already by his car. I'll pull around, he said. Meet you at the Shell. At the gas station, we parked by the air pump. He hopped out first, kneeling to twist the cap. You know these pumps take cards now? No more quarters. He swiped, crouched, and the hose hissed. They are better. Wanting to check the others? A normal scene. An act older than my grandmother's cookbook. The hiss of air, the smell of gas, and old rain. My phone buzzed with a work notification, and I glanced down. Thanks, I said. I owe you whatever the going rate for air is. He laughed. 1 minute of conversation. He leaned against his passenger door, not blocking, just present. No drama. I'll drive separate. I should have left. I know. But I also know that some negotiations, if refused, become punishments later. I cracked my window. He said, I can't do this fight anymore. I know I messed up. I'm seeing a therapist. I've been sober for 2 weeks. He is not an alcoholic. This is how he apologizes. By inventing a problem he can solve heroically. Email me, I said, and I started the car. He moved fast. Opened my driver door, quick as a magician. Just sit in my car for 1 minute, Maya. People are staring, he hissed, and for a second I felt the old shame, the panic of being that couple in public. A stranger looked over, then looked away. I heard myself say, 1 minute, because my brain prioritized the social script over my instincts. I turned off my engine. I grabbed my phone. I left my purse. His passenger seat smelled like lemon wipes and aftershave. The door thunked shut. He clicked the central lock. The sound was soft, almost apologetic. He started the car. Eric, I said. Stop. We're not. I just want to talk somewhere private, he said. Somewhere neutral. He pulled into traffic. I reached for the handle. Child lock. I felt it. A small drop inside, like an elevator starting to descend. I pressed my phone's side button twice to trigger the emergency SOS countdown. He noticed. He grabbed my wrist. Not hard, not bruising, but firm, performed. Maya, he whispered, eyes on the road. Don't do this. You'll scare the kids. 5 minutes. Then I'll bring you back. Cross my heart. He drove not to his studio but past it, over the bridge, into a light industrial neighborhood where the buildings were numbers instead of names. He turned into a lot with a corrugated metal fence and parked beside a door with peeling blue paint. The key was on his ring. He opened the door like he owned the place. He did, in a way I'd learn later. Inside was a room that wanted to be an office but had given up halfway. Gray carpet, folding table, 2 mismatched chairs, a portable AC unit roaring like a jet. The air smelled like dust and someone else's plans. He closed the door. He put his keys in his pocket. He gestured at the chair like a waiter offering a booth. 15 minutes, he said, and then I'll take you back before school's out. I sat. I watched the thin curtain lift and fall in the AC wind. I counted, 3 heartbeats per inhale. I said, if I don't text Tasha back in 10, she calls the police. It was mostly true. I told Tasha to check on me if I went dark, but I hadn't set a timer. His smile tightened. You think I'm a monster. He leaned over me then. Not touching, just close enough that I could see the shaving nick on his jaw, the way his pupils narrowed. You think you can ruin me in court with your little stories. I'm trying to give you a chance to be reasonable. That was when I knew I was not going back in 15 minutes. Fear is efficient. It organizes your brain. I stopped wanting to win the argument. I started wanting to get home. Part 4. Isolation and control / posted at 4:39 a.m. He didn't tie me up. People ask that in movies. Reality is cheaper. He took my phone, so we can focus, set its screen down on the folding table, and said, airplane mode, see? Before slipping it into his pocket. He moved my chair so it faced the wall, then sat behind me. He talked in circles. He did his greatest hits. We both made mistakes. You've poisoned the kids against me. Tell the lawyer to back off, and we can put this behind us. He kept his voice steady, like a therapist, like a YouTube video about starting a gratitude journal. The AC thudded on and off, clanking like it had arthritis. Above that I heard a rhythmic sound, faint, metallic, counting out time. Not a clock. Something like a rail crossing a few blocks away. Every so often, another sound. A delivery truck, the squeal of a gate, a dog barking. The light in the room was sour afternoon, except it was still morning. Time bent. I anchored myself by listing. Smells, lemon cleaner, dust, old coffee. Textures, chair vinyl sticking to the backs of my thighs. A scratch on the table like a river on a map. Tastes, sugar from the donut he handed me, stale. I looked for anything with numbers. On the wall hung a fire extinguisher with a tag punched. Last inspected March 25th. There was a calendar with a roofing company logo, flipped to April though it was March. In the corner, a stack of boxes labeled cable ties, 500 PCS. A red extension cord snaked toward the AC like a vein. He pivoted from blame to bargaining. If we put out a joint statement that we're working on it, the lawyer backs off. No more supervised exchanges, he said. I'll even give you child support for March right now. He pulled out his wallet and fanned cash like a card trick. Look how reasonable I am. There is a sound a person makes when they are proud of their villainy because no one has ever called it by its name. I asked to use the bathroom. He hesitated, then pointed to a door behind the AC unit. Inside, a sink, a toilet with a loose seat, a mirror with a crack that made my reflection look like it had a fault line. I counted tiles, 87 floor, 12 by 16 on the wall, missing one near the baseboard. The window was painted shut. The soap was industrial pink. I pulled a bobby pin from my bun and slipped it into the hem of my shirt. I tore a strip from the inside seam of my jacket and tucked it behind the sink, under the metal lip where grime gathers. A tiny flag in a forgotten country. Back in the room, I tried a new tactic. Okay, I said, let's talk logistics. If I post the statement, you'll take me back before pickup. I'll call my boss to say I had cramps. We'll revisit schedules next week. He nodded, almost relieved, as if my compliance released the pressure in his chest. He pulled out my phone and unlocked it with my face. I looked away, eyes slitting. He opened messages. Text Tasha, you had to run to the pharmacy, he said. I typed, pharmacy. Cramps. We'll call later. Then, a beat later, as if correcting a typo, I added, tell the kids pineapple. It's a code we set after a scary park incident. Pineapple means call Officer Ruiz, the school safety officer who did our self-defense workshop, and share location if I go dark. Eric didn't know about pineapple. He thought it was Isla's favorite fruit, which is kiwi. He read over my shoulder. Cute, he said. He didn't comment on the fruit. Maybe he didn't notice. The phone buzzed in his hand. Tasha, are you safe? He turned the screen away. She's so dramatic, he said, and put the phone back in his pocket. I asked for water. He brought me a plastic cup, the kind you buy in packs of 48. The water tasted metallic. I drank slowly, using the cup's reflection to clock behind me without turning my head. He had placed his keys on the table again, maybe out of habit. I could see the fob, black, with a cracked logo. I memorized the pattern. Metal key, 2 silver, 1 brass, fob, tiny grocery loyalty tag. I practiced breathing in squares, for counts in, for hold, for out, for hold. I pictured the kids' faces at pickup, the teacher glancing at the clock. I pictured Tasha reading pineapple and muttering, okay, 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 like an engine starting. I pictured Denise saying it was probably a misunderstanding even as she put on her shoes. People who doubt you can still arrive. At some point. Time is soup. He stood and said he had to check something in the back. I listened to his footsteps fade. I stood, quiet as a cat. I slid the bobby pin out and tested the bathroom lock from the outside. Could it jam? Maybe. I looked at the AC unit's plug, traced it to the extension cord, traced that to the wall. If the AC died, the room would get hot and loud in a different way. I counted the seconds between that distant metallic rhythm, 17, 42, 59, no, irregular, like the world was Morse code and I was a new recruit. I sat down again before his footsteps returned. He came back with a paper bag and said, lunch. I'm not a monster. Inside was a turkey sandwich sweating in plastic and 2 napkins. One napkin had the deli's name printed on it. Marino's, 27th and Ralston. I tucked that into my shoe when he wasn't looking. Paper cuts can be maps. Part 5, Signals and Clues / posted at 7:02 a.m. I learned a trick from a YouTuber who hides messages in makeup videos. Ordinary photos carry metadata, sometimes a location if services are on, sometimes a detail someone won't clock until later. Eric asked me to take a selfie to prove we're fine, and I did, holding the cup like a prop, smile thin as floss. He wanted a cute caption for the joint statement he was imagining. No filter needed, he said. I turned my phone so the front camera caught us both and angled it just enough to include the corner of the room. Fire extinguisher tag barely visible, the AC unit's brand name, a bit of the window with its flaking blue paint. He smirked. See? Compromise. He kept my phone in airplane mode. But he isn't tech-savvy in the way that matters. Airplane mode toggled off when he accidentally pulled down the quick settings while scrolling. I heard the tiny chime of 3 cued texts flood out, then saw his thumb fumble the icon back on. It was a hiccup in the silence, a single heartbeat of connection. I counted 3, 1 for Tasha, 1 for the nursery, 1 for Aunt Denise, who insists on being CC'd on life. Earlier, in the bathroom, I'd used that pink industrial soap to wet my finger and write a word on the underside of the toilet tank lid. Help. It would dry invisible. Maybe no one would see it for months. Maybe tomorrow some building guy would jiggle the chain and get a message like a ghost. The deli napkin in my shoe kept crinkling. I used it as a metronome for my courage. "When are you taking me back?" I asked, as neutrally as a receptionist. He looked at the clock on his phone, 1:12 p.m., then at me. "After we send the statement, and you call your lawyer to reschedule the hearing." He was building himself a runway. From outside, I caught a new sound. The squeal of brakes, a door chime with a 3-note sequence, like a grocery store. Along with the metallic rhythm, not a train? Maybe a scrapyard crane? I layered the sound map in my head. A freeway hum lived under everything. Airplanes came and went in the far sky. I counted 14 seconds from rumble to fade. Where in the city do you get all that at once? Industrial strip near the river. West of the rail. South of the airport flight path. North-facing window. Light never fully warm. When he took a call on the back, I stood and pressed my ear to the door. His voice was low and irritated. "No, I can't meet. I told you already. She's here." A pause, then softer. "I'm handling it. You'll get your money by Friday." My blood cooled. Affairs are one thing. Debts are another. Motive sharpens when it owes someone interest. I needed to send something real. Text is easy to intercept. Voice less, so if you play it right. When he came back, I asked if I could record the joint statement draft on voice memos as practice. He rolled his eyes, but said fine. I hit record and read a bland paragraph about co-parenting with respect, while walking slowly toward the window, as if for better light. Then I added, like a throwaway, "The AC is too loud next to the window here on Ralston. Can we move the chair?" It was a risk, the kind that sounds innocuous unless someone is looking for it. He didn't clock it. He moved the chair himself, proud of his helpfulness. Tasha, if she got anything, would catch Ralston. I thought of her search history, feral, competent, and pictured her dropping a pin on Marina's Deli at 27th and Ralston, then looking for industrial spaces with blue-painted windows and portable AC runtimes, then calling Officer Ruiz with the words custody and coercive control, and we think she's in a unit, not a residence. I also needed a physical breadcrumb. When Eric finally let me stretch my legs, I tripped near the door and let my hair tie snap. I kicked it under the baseboard, tucking a tiny bead of my hair into the dust. DNA wasn't my plan A, but more than one rope helps when you're climbing. At some point the AC hiccuped and died. The room's sound changed, the hiss went soft. Eric swore and fiddled with the cord. He jiggled the red switch on the power strip. The lights blinked. In that blink, a small miracle. My phone, in his pocket, must have lost Bluetooth connection to my earbuds, which were still in my purse in my car at the Shell station. The last device it connected to? My dashboard head unit. If Tasha somehow accessed my Google account, she has the backup codes from when I locked myself out. She could see Maya's phone connected to Honda CR at 11:07 a.m., disconnected at 11:19 a.m., connected to Eric's Camry at 11:21. A trail of ordinary pings disguised as my idiot habit of forgetting to turn off Bluetooth. He got the AC breathing again. He said, "See, I take care of things." He brought me another cup of water and a smile that didn't touch his eyes. He told me how much he loved the kids, how terrible it would be for them if their mother made rash decisions. He described a future where we did birthdays together and sat on opposite sides of gym bleachers like friends. He didn't mention the Money Friday person. When he stepped out to check the lock on the back door, I moved fast. I took the deli napkin, tore it in half, and used my thumbnail to scratch Ralston/blue door/AC hum into the paper, pressing until it left a groove. I slid the scrap under the edge of the folding table's metal foot where his sweeping wouldn't reach. I stood, breathed, and let my face go back to neutral before he returned. If you've read this far, you're going to ask, why didn't I scream? Why didn't I throw the chair through the window? The window was painted shut. The door opened inward. He had keys. He had momentum. I had my brain and a topography of sounds, a pocket of soap writing, a sandwich napkin, a stub of bobby pin, and a fruit code that might be blooming on a friend's screen across town. People think survival is a single dramatic gesture. Sometimes it's a series of tiny, boring, relentless ones that look like nothing until the map is complete. Edit to add Tasha. If you're reading this while I schedule this post to publish on a delay, yes, I figured it out on his phone when he took his call. Pineapple still stands. I am here. And I am listening for the chime that means you are, too. DM from @TashInfern /relationship_advice OP. I'm posting with Maya's permission. We've done pineapple before, never like this. Timeline for the detectives among you. Because crowdsourcing details calms me down. 10:41 a.m. Yesterday, Maya texts, pharmacy. Cramps. We'll call later. Then, tell the kids pineapple. I text back, are you safe? No answer. I call, straight to voicemail, which sometimes happens when she's at the nursery, but her boss texts me, we swap plants and memes, at 11:06. Hey, Maya left early for an emergency. Everything okay? 11:07. Her phone pings the Honda head unit per our Find My Device history. Yes, we share Google creds because adult friendship is HIPAA with glitter. 11:19. Disconnect. 11:21. New Bluetooth. Camry, LE_8C. Eric's car. My stomach drops into my socks. I call Aunt Denise. She hates being called Aunt, but leans into emergencies like a third job. She says, he's dramatic, not dangerous. I say, he sabotaged her car 2 months ago. She goes quiet long enough for me to imagine duct taping her skepticism to the ceiling. Then, I'm on my way. 11:38. I drive to the shell by the school. Maya's Honda is there, aired up tire, driver door smudged like someone touched it with lemony hands. Her purse is in the passenger seat under her thrifted cardigan, tag still on because she likes the safety pin. Jonah's inhaler is in the cup holder. Maya does not leave without the inhaler. 11:42. A man with a yellow safety vest tells me a guy matching Eric's description used the air pump. He noticed because Eric swiped twice and swore. He says, they left separate. He also says, the lady seemed fine, and I remind myself not to bite witnesses. 11:55. I send Officer Ruiz a message through the non-emergency portal. Keywords custody, coercive control, history of manipulation, possible abduction. I attach a PDF I keep like an emergency go bag, screenshots of texts where Eric accidentally took Maya's phone, the car sugar incident report from the mechanic, we filed it for the record, and a ranty email he sent at 2:11 a.m. last month about maternal unreliability. He replies at 12:09. Call this number. I'm on until 6 p.m. 12:14. Denise arrives, sees the cardigan, goes gray. She says, I was wrong. We're doing this by the book. We check the nursery's ring cam. The owner gives permission with the speed of a woman who has buried a sister and trusts her instincts. The footage shows Eric at 10:22 a.m. last week trying the locked back door, looking for Maya. He leaves when the UPS guy shows. That's enough for Ruiz to say, pattern. Denise remembers a story from a church friend about a weird office where Eric met a guy about a side job. She scrolls old texts and finds Marino's Deli, 27th and Ralston, her friend's sandwich order. I triangulate like it's finals week. Industrial strip. Blue-painted windows. I search county records for commercial spaces leased to a shell company with Eric's name. Nothing. But there's a P.O. box registered last month to Redline Solutions, LLC. Guess whose email is listed as the contact? He spelled his own last name wrong because God is hilarious. 1:12 p.m. I get a voice memo shared to our joint drive. It's Maya reading a bland co-parenting paragraph. In the middle she says, almost like a sigh, the AC is too loud next to the window here on Ralston. I send it to Ruiz. He says, good ear. We drive Ralston in loops, passing corrugated fences and units that all look the same if you squint. Denise spots a blue door with paint flakes like confetti after a party. We hear a portable AC and something metal, irregular, far side of the block. A crane or a rail spur. A church 2 blocks away rings the hour. I note the delay. Ruiz calls. I can't search without exigent circumstances or consent. But if she texts help, or you have eyes on him entering with her under duress, that changes. We can also do a welfare check if we can tie a precise unit. Limits, procedure. He's not a TV cop. He's a careful one. Fine. We can be careful too. 2:03 p.m. I park at Marino's, order a turkey, and flirt with the teen at the counter because my best friend taught me that kindness opens doors. He tells me a guy, photo matches Eric's LinkedIn, don't judge me, comes in for 2 waters and a sandwich like he's in a hurry a few times a week. He pays cash. He always walks south, toward the blue buildings. 2:35 p.m. We split up. Denise watches the alley behind the blue door. I hover near the front in case a window breathes. I text Maya our old code from college, when she dated a drummer who thought emotions were optional. Do you want the fern back? That means I'm close. No response. My hands shake. I put them on the warm hood of my car like prayer stones until the heat steadies me. 3:10 p.m. The school calls. No one picked up Jonah and Isla. I tell them to keep the kids with Mrs. Patel, the one who keeps spare granola bars in her desk, and I call Ruiz again. He says, "That's the exigent circumstance. I'm en route." I know people will ask why we didn't go full Kool-Aid man through the door. Because we want this to hold in court. Because Maya asked us to be smart. Because smart is how we keep kids safe tomorrow and the day after. Because she is leaving breadcrumbs like she's baking a whole loaf, and we owe it to her to follow, not trample. Part 7. Proof of the affair and motive, receipts, burners, and the Friday debt. Posted 12:22 p.m. When Eric left me alone to check the back lock again, I practiced a new face in the mirror, the one that makes manipulative men think they've won. It feels like letting your pulse step off a curb and hope it remembers how to land. He came back with a breezy, crisis averted, and 2 waters from Marinos. The second cup had a faint lipstick ring, not mine, the shade of cool mauve I've never pulled off. I lifted an eyebrow. He clocked it, flushed, and wiped the rim with a napkin, too quickly. People will throw their secrets into a glowing volcano to save a single image of themselves from looking foolish. Who's calling you about Friday? I asked softly, because he expects me loud. He smirked, trying on a dozen explanations like shirts. A supplier, he said. You wouldn't get it. Try me, I said, tracing the condensation on the cup like a bored cat. You're starting a company that doesn't exist, and you owe someone real money. You need me to be unreliable so you can leverage custody to look stable for investors. And if your affair calls during pickup, that's inconvenient branding. He stared. Sometimes men are shocked when the woman who knows the kids' shoe sizes also knows the plot. He paced, ranting about opportunities and a guy who can get us into city contracts. He said I was so negative that I made him seek out people who believed in him. That's when the burner phone rang, thin and insectal, from the pocket of his hoodie. He ignored it so hard the ignoring became a confession. Answer, I said. Put it on speaker. He didn't. He shoved the phone deeper, then exploded. This is why we can't talk. You turn everything into evidence. He grabbed the water, sloshing it. For a second, I saw the edge beneath the manicured voice. The desperation not of a monster, but of a man who has built a tower of bad decisions and thinks if he yells loud enough, it will become a lighthouse. A minute later, he tried the opposite voice, the bleeding heart one. I messed up with Candace, he said, as if naming her made him noble. She was just listening. And she knows people. It's complicated. There it was, a name. Candace. I said nothing, just filed it in the map with the train hum and the deli napkins and the AC brand. He filled the silence, as men committed to their narrations do. She floated me the first 3 months lease on this place, he said, waving around the half office like a talent agent discovering me at a frozen yogurt shop. If you don't fight me, if we present united, I can pay her back Friday. Then we're square. Then we can start over. He needed me to be a prop in a con he'd sold to a mistress investor. He needed the mother of his children to look pliant so the deal, and his identity, stayed intact. He needed my silence to be his business plan. That's when fear changed flavor. It went from white-hot to something colder and more precise. Indignation sharpened to a blade you could butter toast with, and, if necessary, cut rope. He left again to take the burner into the alley. Through the thin door I caught fragments. Not today, and she's being stubborn, and do not come here. His voice laced with panic that wasn't about me as a person so much as me as a variable. He came back false calm. Everything's fine, he said, and smiled at me like a dad at a school concert. I smiled back with my new face. Let's do your statement, I said. He handed me my phone to draft. I opened notes and typed the blandest nonsense I could. Then, pretending to look for a better emoji, I swiped to the camera and snapped a photo of my palm by accident. On my skin, written in ballpoint from the bathroom, were 4 letters, LLC. Underneath, invisibly to him, my lifeline. I curled my hand to obscure the letters while allowing the camera to catch the fire extinguisher tag date again, this time fully legible. Then I took a second photo of the table edge, for lighting, catching a corner of the deli napkin with Merinos printed. If airplane mode hiccuped once more, those photos would hitch a ride to the cloud and into Tasha's folder like moths to our porch light. Okay, I said. Now you. He dictated. I recorded. He said words like miscommunication and moving forward, and for the kids. I asked him to repeat phrases, stalling, collecting. He grew confident, careless. He tossed a piece of junk mail onto the table, a trifold with the return address P.O. Box 1437 and the name, Redline Solutions. I faked a cough and knocked my cup, water creeping toward the paper. Oops. I dabbed with a napkin and, in the mess, palmed the corner with the P.O. box. I pressed it under the chair leg with my shoe. Paper cuts, maps. From the street came a siren far off, then nearer, then past. He flinched, then laughed at himself. Jumpier than I thought, he said. He thinks he's the main character. He has not accounted for the possibility that the chorus has learned harmony. When his chest loosened again, he offered, magnanimous, "You can call the kids from my phone before pickup. See, I'm not a monster." He held out the burner instead of his primary, expecting me to be grateful. I took it, smiled, and hit recent. The last 3 calls were Candace, blocked, and Garage Bill. I let myself have the smallest, meanest joy at his sloppiness. Then I pressed 9 to 1, but not the final one. Let the dialer screen linger for 2 seconds, a breadcrumb if a dispatcher later pulled logs, and backed out to camera. I flipped to video, hit record, and checked the lens by slowly panning the room 1, 2, 3 beats, catching the AC model, the window crack, the door frame splinter at shoulder height, the calendar stuck on April. I set the phone face down by mistake, still recording, audio crawling under the table like a beetle. Motive, affair, debt, time. The puzzle pieces had stopped floating. They were clicking into place with the audible satisfaction of a lock turning. One that, with the right pressure, might open from the inside. Part 8. Escalation and deadline, batteries, court dates, and a clock you can hear. /posted 4:01 p.m. At 3:27 p.m. My phone battery dipped to 12%. I saw it when he waved it at me like a treat. His was lower. He'd forgotten his charger. The AC dragged a little like it was drinking through a straw. The room felt like a stalled elevator with bad attitude. Court is Friday, he said suddenly, as if the word had fallen out of his pocket. If we go in like this, they'll side with you because you look like a saint. I need time. He rubbed his jaw where the shaving nick had closed into a tiny red comma. We push the hearing 2 weeks. We do a joint statement. We show them stability. He meant, I keep you here until I can fix Candace's money problem, and then let you go right before I need to look lawful. 2 weeks. I repeated, an echo to buy seconds. My mind sketched the calendar. Today Tuesday, hearing Friday, children waiting at the school now, bedtime in 5 hours, morning routines, lunches that would not pack themselves. You think you can hold me until then? I made my voice incredulous with a sprinkle of pity, the herb he always misread. He scoffed. Don't be dramatic. Just until tonight. Or tomorrow morning at the latest. He said it the way he used to say, just one more drink. I did math. If Tasha had the deli in Ralston and a maybe P.O. box and Bluetooth logs, and the word pineapple, Ruiz had enough to try a welfare check. But welfare checks can bounce off locked doors like pebbles off a tank. We needed sound, sight, a slip. I asked to stand by the window, because I was getting nauseous. He let me. I pressed my palm to the peeling blue paint. It was warmer than the room, sun having turned the metal skin of the building into a quiet heater. Outside, a truck reversed, its beep long and mournful. From farther, a light rail horn bleated and a bell clanged. Ding, ding, ding. Not constant, triggered by a crossing. Church bells chimed the half hour. 3 notes, a pause, 3 notes. I was building a score for Tasha, for Ruiz, for myself. If I got out, I wanted to be able to close my eyes and find this room again in sound. He tried one more chess move. If you sign this, he said, sliding a printed statement he'd drafted. Where did he even print? Marino's? An office nearby? Across the table. I'll let you call the kids before bedtime. We can do bedtime together. They need to hear us not fighting. The paper was full of words that looked like cooperation but read like a trap. Phrases like jointly agree and temporary adjustment, and mother acknowledges previous lapses. My hands stopped shaking. They went perfectly still. Something inside me, not rage, not even resolve, something older, sat up. No, I said. It startled him. He'd thought compliance was a slope and he'd built rails. Maya, he said, warning coiled around my name. Don't make me. Make you what? I asked softly. Risk what's left of the image you worship for $2 worth of control. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't stand. I let the words be heavy and small. He moved so fast the chair shrieked against the carpet. He loomed. I looked up at him the way you look up at a wave, assessing angle, speed, where to duck under without getting thrown. He punched the table, the sound a cartoon thunderclap in a cheap room. Water jumped in our cups. The burner phone buzzed with a text. Candace, where are you? He flinched like the phone had bitten him. Answer her, I said. Tell her you'll be late. I smiled with all my teeth. Tell her Maya says hi. The buzzing stopped. He didn't answer. He paced. He muttered, unbelievable, and after everything I do. He power-cycled my phone, and his twice like that would restart the day. The AC went thunk and lost heart before lumbering back. The light in the room turned the shade of old paper. Day was fraying. He announced a deadline, perhaps to convince himself he was still executive enough to set one. We leave at 7, he said. We'll pick up the kids together, go back to yours, and you'll stay there while I handle this Candace situation. In the morning we call the lawyer. His timeline was a toddler's train set, neat, circular, divorced from terrain. Time, battery life, the courthouse, the kids, Ruiz's shift ending at 6. All of it braided into one rope and pulled. My body did that excellent thing again. Fear clearing the desk for the meeting that mattered. I asked to use the bathroom before we leave. He tossed me the key, a cheap square with the number 04 scratched into it like a prison tick mark. I took my bobby pin from my hem, jammed the external lock in a way that would make it stick from the outside, and counted backward from 60, then flushed. In the mirror, a woman I recognized nodded at me, not unkind. I wrote another message where the grime met the metal. Kids 310 missed. Ruiz? Then I scrubbed it off with the pink soap. I wanted to practice leaving only what I meant to leave. Back out, I said, okay. He relaxed, shoulders dropping. The room exhaled with him. He thought he owned the clock again. I let him. He pocketed the keys, grabbed both phones, and reached for the door. That was when the near rescue arrived like a bright, loud mistake. Part 9. Near rescue that fails. Blue lights, white lies, and a hair's breadth. / posted 7:48 p.m. A knock. Firm, official. The kind that knows its own authority. Eric froze. He looked at me, eyes blown wide, then pasted on a Boy Scout smile. Don't say anything, he whispered, which instantly made saying something the hottest desire I'd ever had. Welfare check, a voice called. Calm. Practiced. Not shouting, not pleading. We received a call requesting a welfare check for a Maya, last name. Is she present? Eric's hand hovered near my elbow like a magnet. Stay, he hissed, and slipped out, closing the door behind him with that soft click. I opened my mouth, but the door was already a mouth closed on my name. Through the thin wall, Eric's conversational tone, the one he uses with landlords and baristas. Officer, hey, she's fine. We're just talking. Custody stuff. Didn't want to do it at the house with the kids. Lies wrapped in a cardigan. He kept his voice low enough that the officer would have to lean in. Make a man lean in, and he becomes your co-conspirator by posture. Can I speak with her? The officer asked. The timbre sounded familiar. Ruiz? Maybe. Or someone he'd called. I pressed my ear to the door. Of course, Eric said, and didn't move. She's in the bathroom. A beat. Can you give us a second? My partner is. A pause. He adjusted the world. Emotional. I counted tiles again to keep from clawing the paint. My heart pounded so loud I worried it would knock on the door for me. I looked at the window, painted shut. I looked at the AC cord, the power strip, the plastic cup. I looked at the chair leg pinning the P.O. box scrap. I looked at the burner phone, which he'd left on the table for the first time all day. A hubris breadcrumb so beautiful I wanted to frame it. I picked it up, hit record on the ongoing video I'd started earlier, and whispered, I am here. Blue door. Portable AC Merinos on Ralston. P.O. Box 1437. He says we're leaving at 7. I set it down so the mic faced the door seam. Ma'am, the officer's voice, closer now, through wood and paint. My name is Officer Ruiz. Are you able to speak freely? Ghosted by distance, but clear enough I could have cried. He had come. The map worked enough to put him on the right street, if not inside the right room. Eric laughed lightly. She's okay, he said. She doesn't want to talk right now. You know how it is. No, sir, Ruiz said, and there was steel under the calm. I don't know how it is. That's why I'm here to hear from her. Silence. The room concentrated itself. I moved to the door, touched the knob, felt its cheap metal, wanted to tear it apart with my teeth. Ma'am, Ruiz again. If you can't speak, can you knock 3 times? Eric, quick, she's in the bathroom. He fumbled. She's sick. My jam on the bathroom lock saved me. I heard him try the key, 04, heard it catch, heard a muttered curse. He had to abandon the image of fetching me gently. He needed a new lie. She's throwing up, he announced, louder, to the hallway. We had some bad deli. Ruiz, skeptical, from Marino's? Their turkey's solid. The tiniest pinprick of humor threaded through procedure. He was buying time. He was also fishing for details only she could have told him. I knocked. Once, twice, then stopped. Because Eric had moved, pressing his palm over the door's thin seam like a man plugging a leak in a dam. Don't, he mouthed. I could hear the word against wood. Sir, Ruiz again, voice flattening. Step back from the door. A second voice spoke then, another officer. We have a report of 2 minor children not picked up from school and a pattern of concerning behavior. We need to see the party named in the call. If you do not consent, we can escalate. Eric's tone hardened, the edge he keeps for customer service reps who won't waive a fee. No warrant, no entry, he said. He was right. Legally cautious, infuriatingly right. Ruiz could push a welfare check, but not break a commercial lock without cause. The cause was me. I was cause-shaped and on the wrong side of paint. Ma'am, Ruiz tried one more time, softer, urgency braided through like a thread of silver. If you can tell me anything distinguishing about the space you're in, sound, smell, I can use that to justify a more specific check. I swallowed panic like a pill. The AC kicked on, roar, then clatter. From outside, the rail bell dinged. Once, twice, then stopped. A plane passed low. Church bells, 3 notes, pause, 3 notes. The deli's chime, faint. I put my lips to the door seam and whispered, AC model, Aero Cool P, 1200. Blue door. Fire extinguisher tag March 25. Ralston. Portable AC hum. Church bells 12 seconds after rail. The burner phone, under the table, recorded. The officers did not hear. Eric did. He slapped the door as if it were my cheek. Not hard, but hard enough to make me flinch backward and crash my calf into the chair. The chair screeched. On the recording, later, you will hear that. On the other side of the door, a shuffle, the sound of a decision being made in a uniform. And then, as quickly as they came, they left. Not because they wanted to. Because the process is a maze built for people who play honest, and they had to go get the right key. Eric turned the bolt. He came in with the practiced calm of a man pretending to be a lake while a shark circles under the surface. Look what you did, he said, voice soft, more chilling than any shout. You almost ruined everything. He unplugged the AC. The room thickened to soup. He took the burner, stopped the video, and, thank every small god of sloppiness, saved it instead of deleting. He put both phones on the table and dragged the second chair across the door, wedging it under the knob like a cartoon. It wouldn't stop a badge. It would slow a friend. He sat opposite me and smiled. 7, he said. We leave at 7. I smiled back and let him feel the wind bloom in his chest. Then I began to rehearse the thing I'd been avoiding because it felt messy and small and not heroic. How to turn his habit into my exit. Part 10. Turning the tables, predictable habits, psychological leverage, and the smallest door, / posted 10:11 p.m. Eric's most predictable habit isn't rage. It's vanity disguised as benevolence. He loves to be the one who lets you. He loves to be magnanimous under surveillance. And after the officers left, he was drunk on his own management of optics. He paced and smiled and told me how he'd handled it, like a guy describing how he talked a flight attendant into giving him an extra pretzel. He also had to tell, After each adrenaline spike, he needed sugar. It's why there were always donuts at hard conversations. It's why he keeps mints in his car like a magician's coins. And there, on the table, sat the box he'd brought to the porch that started our day like a bad prophecy. 2 glazed, 1 chocolate, 1 with rainbow sprinkles. Isla would have chosen with both hands. Let's eat, I said. If we're going to face the kids together, we shouldn't show up brittle. I made my voice practical, the church basement mom language he thinks is my native tongue. He hesitated. Then he cracked the box, took the chocolate, and, this matters, went to the sink to rinse his hands because he hates stickiness. He turned his back. He put the phones in his back pocket to keep them safe from splashes. He set the water to a trickle he's proud of conserving, and fumbled with the weak soap. I counted 3 heartbeats and moved. I slid my chair back a fraction so the legs squeaked, cover noise. I nudged the door chair wedge with my foot, just enough to change the angle without changing its function. I lifted the AC's plug and loosened the connection so it would flicker on a delay. I palmed the P.O. box corner under the table and tucked it into my bra strap, a paper itch against skin I could ignore. Then I returned my hands to the table like a student who definitely wasn't cheating. He turned, drying his fingers on a napkin in that fussy way he has. He sat. He took a bite and closed his eyes. God, he said, I needed this. Me too, I said, and let my face soften. The performance felt like lowering a drawbridge for a parade you plan to ambush. Do you remember our first date? He asked, donut drunk and nostalgic, because men who risk everything on Friday bills often romanticize Tuesdays. You wore that green dress. You laughed at my joke about the elevator music. I laughed because you pressed all the buttons to make the elevator stop at every floor and apologized to strangers like a game show host. I said. I wasn't flattering him. I was reminding him he's predictable in loops. He likes to press buttons. He likes to narrate. He likes to think he's running the panel. He relaxed fully then, shoulders dropping, jaw unlocking. He started to plan aloud again, the way you do when you believe the threat has passed and your cleverness is the only god. Okay, he said. We'll swing by the school. No, I said, letting a tremor touch my voice. Mrs. Patel will call CPS if we show up together late like this. She's by the book. Better if you go alone. Tell them I had a stomach bug, and I'll be at my place when you get there. I'll make tea. We won't fight. Optics. He paused, chewing thought. He loves optics. He believes in optics the way other people believe in weather. You'd run, he said, testing the idea like a tongue on a loose tooth. Where? I asked, and gestured at the door chair, the unplugged AC, his pockets heavy with my life. You have my phone. You have the keys. I have a Honda that stalls on prayer. I'm not stupid. Not stupid, he agreed, fond almost. He liked that I could catalog his chessboard. It made him feel like a worthy opponent in his own movie. He licked sugar from his thumb, grimaced at the stickiness, and went to the sink again. Habit as metronome. I palmed the bobby pin, slid it between my fingers like a cigarette, and rehearsed the lock in the doorknob with my eyes, not my hands. The wedge under the knob was angled so that a firm downward pressure from inside would release it faster than from outside. He had made a barricade against the wrong direction. He came back, patted his pockets, felt the phones, patted the keys, all there. He said, fine. I go. I bring the kids, we talk. You'll be here when I get back. He said it not as a question, but as a spell he believed could make the world obey. I'll be here, I said, and let the words be like clay. He checked his hair in the cracked mirror because he always does. He rehearsed a line. Hey guys, mommy's not feeling great, but, because he loves being the voiceover. He picked up the donut box to throw it away because he hates mess. He moved the door chair wedge to open the door. He turned the knob. I stood too, casual, like I might stretch before a long car ride. Keys, I said lightly. You know I lose mine. Let me grab mine from my bag in the Honda, so we're not stuck later. He considered, then shook his head. After. He likes to reward good behavior after the credits. He stepped into the hallway, turned to lock the door from the outside, and realized he needed both hands. One to hold the knob in so the latch would align, one to turn the key. For that half second, he tucked the phones into the crook of his elbow, and the keyring dangled, and the wedge leaned on nothing but his knee. I breathed square. For in, for hold, for out, for hold. Then I dropped the cup. Water splashed across his shoes. He swore and flinched backward on reflex, lifting his foot, which bumped the wedge out from under the knob. The door drifted open an inch, a whisper. "Sorry," I said, flustered voice, napkins up, performance at Tony levels. He bent instinctively to blot his shoe with the donut box napkin, because vanity runs the show. My hand moved without me. Bobby pinned to latch. Twist. Push. The door swung in another inch. He looked up, confused at the shift in air, and I met his eyes and gave him the smallest, sweetest smile I own. The one that says thank you for what you do not know you've given me. "Careful," I said, and stepped past him into the hall as if I'd always had permission. He blinked, recalibrating, deciding whether this was still within his magnanimous script. "Stay in sight," he said automatically, and I did, walking ahead, hands visible, like a hostage in a movie who knows the camera is rolling. Down the narrow corridor, past a fire extinguisher twin to mine, past a door with peeling blue paint cousins, I counted exits and ears. An older man at the far unit glanced up from a stool, grease on his hands, the smell of rubber and hot dust. I said, quietly but clearly, "If you've got a daughter, imagine her," and kept walking. He watched us with a mechanic's eyes that have seen everything twice. At the exterior door, the sun hit my face so hard I almost cried. The air did that big free thing, even though the fence still made a metal horizon. Eric gestured toward his Camry like a valet. "Front seat," he said. I turned toward the Honda instead, a pivot so small a camera would miss it. "My bag." I lied, and because habit owns him, he said, "Fine. Hurry." I walked to my car like a woman walking to her mailbox. Not slow, not rushed. At the door, I made a show of padding non-existent pockets, then leaned in, grabbed the cardigan, the purse, the keys. Inside, my dashboard slept. The head unit remembered me like a dog. I turned the key. The engine coughed, then caught. Sainted Honda blessing me one more time. Eric realized what I was doing the same instant I did it. He shouted my name with a new voice, high and almost childlike at the edges. He ran. I reversed, heartbeat in my mouth, tires screaming honesty. He slapped the hood, a useless, human sound against metal. I swerved, corrected, saw myself in the convex mirror like a fleeing deer. The gate was open 2 cars wide for a delivery truck easing out. I slid past it with a noise that will live in my molars forever. He chased, on foot first, then his Camry started, then headlights in my rear view like a second sunrise. I pressed the gas. The Honda's sainted engine remembered its youth for 2 blocks, 3, then the sugar ghosts rose, and she hesitated. I patted the dashboard like a horse. "Please," I said out loud to a machine. "Please, we're almost there." Where was the only question with an answer. I turned toward Marino's, toward the church bells, toward Ruiz's earlier footprints. I aimed for witnesses and chimes and a boy at a counter who liked to talk. I aimed for sound and light, and the part of the city my breadcrumbs had taught to say my name back. And behind me, Eric's predictable habits stretched like a net he didn't realize I'd learned how to cut. Part 11. Coordinated break, bells, beeps, and people who don't look away. / posted 6:32 a.m. The Honda coughed like a smoker, but ran. I threaded the grid I'd memorized by sound. Rail bell, then the church's 3-note chime 12 seconds later, then the grocery door's cheerful 2-tone. Eric's headlights carved jittery moons on my windshield. I did the math between breaths. 1 long block to Ralston, 2 right turns, and I could coast into Marino's lot like I meant to be there. Witnesses are oxygen. So is a camera lens. As I swung onto 27th, a delivery truck blocked half the lane. The same boxy thing I'd heard grinding gears behind the fence earlier. The driver wore a neon vest and the universal expression of someone who has heard every expletive and does not offer refunds. He saw me coming hot and saw Eric's car 2 beats behind. He clocked the distance between us, predator math, and flicked his hazard lights on. That tiny, blinking mercy bought me 6 seconds and a clear space. I cut into Marino's lot and braked hard enough to make change ring in the ashtray. Inside the deli, the kid at the counter recognized me from 20 anxious questions ago. He looked at me, then at my windshield, then at the mirror over the soda fountain that showed Eric's Camry nose into the lot like a shark. He didn't move toward a phone. He lunged for the door chime and yanked the string, hard, 4, 5 times, making the little bell scream. It wasn't an alarm, But in that moment it worked like one. The older guy from the tire shop 2 doors down poked his head out. A woman with a stroller paused mid-text. An entire small city of eyes flicked toward me. I got out with my hands up. Not surrender, visibility. "I need Officer Ruiz," I said to the deli kid in the open air, my voice steady with practice. "I am Maya, last name. Welfare check was for me. Blue door unit. Portable AC. He has my phone." The kid pointed behind me, and the answer arrived wearing a badge and an expression like a closed fist unclenching. Ruiz, jogging across the lot with another officer shadowing him. Later I'd learned Tasha had stalled them on the block when the near rescue failed, insisting she'd heard my voice through the thin door and that procedure owed me another try. Denise, meanwhile, had sweet-talked the church office into sharing the bell schedule with a stamp and a signature. The timing, the 12-beat gap between ding and chime, mapped to this intersection like a thumbprint. The deli team's talkativeness and my Ralston voice memo stitched the rest. Eric swung out of his Camry, smile already in place, but it wobbled when he saw the ratio. 2 officers, for bystanders, me with my hands raised and my whole city of breadcrumbs assembled into a picture even he could understand. He started with charm, because of course he did. "Officer, this is Allah." "Sir," hands visible and step back, Ruiz said, not unkind but gravel firm. "Ma'am." He looked at me like a person, not a problem. "Do you feel safe?" "No," I said. The simplest sentence I've ever written. Eric laughed too loud. "She's being dramatic. We were just—" "Sir," the second officer cut in. "Stop." Eric's eyes bounced between faces, looking for a mark. He settled on me. "Babe, come on. Let's not do this here." His voice dropped, the coaxing tone that used to make me surrender a Saturday. "You're upset. I get it. Get in the car. I'll take you home." "I am home," I said, and touched my chest, then the deli counter, then the church's bell tower in my periphery, then Ruiz's radio that crackled my name like punctuation. Home is the place where you're seen as you are, not as someone's alibi. Ruiz stepped between us. "Ma'am, would you like to make a statement and request an emergency protective order?" "Yes," I said. The word felt like a bone clicking back into place. Eric tried one last narrative slight. "This is a custody misunderstanding," he told Ruiz, lowering his voice for the audience, as if the microphones of the world were always trained on him. "We're both at fault." He offered his wrist theatrically as if daring the cuffs, then laughed when no one bit. "We're not arresting you," Ruiz said evenly. "We're documenting your behavior. The DA will decide charges. Right now, we're here to ensure safety." He turned to me. "Do you have your phone?" "He does," I said. "He also has a burner. Last 3 calls, Candace, blocked, and garage bill." Eric's face did a small, interesting thing then. The micro-grimace of a man whose private nouns have been dragged into daylight. The deli kid coughed into a laugh and pretended it was a cough. The woman with the stroller angled her body, so she was between me and Eric. And if you've ever seen a stranger create a shield with their body for you, you know why neighborhoods outlast names. Tasha's hatchback screeched into the lot like a punctuation mark. She got out with her hands already shaking, hugged me with her whole history, and then, because this is who she is, she looked Ruiz dead in the eye and said, "We're doing this by the book." Denise pulled up smoother, hair pinned like a plan, and said, "I'll take the kids from school. I brought snacks." It was 6:09 p.m. The deadline Eric had tried to conjure with his mouth was dissolving in the air like sugar. Ruiz asked if I wanted to ride to the station or make the statement at the community room in the church. I chose the church. I wanted the bells, the baby giggles from the daycare down the hall, the smell of coffee in urns and bulletin boards with crocheted announcements. Eric hovered by his car, rehearsing outrage, practicing grief, testing which mask fit the lighting. The deli teen, God bless his nosy soul, said, "Hey, officer? My boss keeps the store camera pointed at the lot because of last summer's scooter thieves. If you need footage, there's good angles. Procedures love footage." Ruiz nodded, already making a note. We walked into the church lobby together. Me, Tasha, Ruiz, and a woman with soft eyes who introduced herself as a victim advocate because Ruiz had radioed ahead not just for law but for care. The building's AC hummed like a benevolent cousin to the box unit in the bad room. The bell chimed the hour. 3 notes. Pause. 3 notes. It felt like the world saying, "We heard you. Say it again." And so I did. Part 12, Confrontation, the story he told, the story I lived, / posted 1:17 p.m. In the church's community room, someone had left up a banner from a bake sale. "You are loved, and gluten-free options are in the back." I sat under it at a folding table while Ruiz turned on a small recorder, and the advocate slid a box of tissues toward me I didn't need yet, but would. Tasha sat to my left, not touching, just present like a steady metronome. Denise texted photos of the kids eating cheese sticks in her back seat, with the kind of commentary that makes crisis feel like any other Tuesday. Jonah says car cheese tastes better than house cheese. Discuss. I wanted to bottle that text and drink it at 3 a.m. Eric hovered in the hall, pacing, trying to decide if the performance required him to leave in a huff or stay in sorrow. He chose a hybrid, peeking in, sighing, pinching the bridge of his nose like a widower in a soap opera who just learned the will was a forgery. Ruiz closed the door gently but firmly. "Whenever you're ready," he said. I started at the porch donuts and described everything in sentences that stacked like bricks. Each time I was tempted to soften an edge, I looked at the advocate's eyes and remembered her nod earlier in the lot. "We believe you." I named the sugar in the gas cap, the fake urgent care scare, the Bluetooth trail, Honda SR at 11:07, Camry at 11:21. I described the room: corrugated fence, blue door, Aero-Cool P, 1200 portable AC, fire extinguisher tag, March 25th, the deli napkin, Marinos, 27th and Ralston, the bathroom's cracked mirror, the jammed lock, key 04. I said the word abducted only once, and only because it fit the hole in the sentence like a measured plug. Ruiz didn't flinch at the word. He just wrote, "Steady." The advocate quietly set a cup of water by my elbow. The condensation ring looked like a moon. When I got to the near rescue, my voice wobbled for the first time. Ruiz listened without defending himself or the system that had required him to leave. He just said, "I'm sorry you had to hold on longer." The sentence was a scaffold I didn't know I needed until I put weight on it. Eric knocked then, 2 polite taps, and slid the door open an inch. "Can I?" He gestured at the room like he might ask to borrow sugar. Ruiz didn't raise his voice. "Sir, you may wait in the lobby." The advocate reached up and pushed the door fully closed with the kind of gentle finality only church basements can muster. I kept talking. I described the burner phone video, the names Candace, garage bill, the P.O. Box 1437, torn corner pressed to my skin. At Candace, Ruiz's pen paused. He exchanged a look with the second officer in the doorway. Quick, professional. Not a gotcha look, a connection look. "Do you know Candace's last name?" he asked. "No," I said. "But if you give me a pen, I can draw the font from her lipstick." It got the smallest laugh from Tasha and maybe from me. At one point I apologized. Automatic, a tick I've been trying to unlearn. "Sorry, I ramble when I'm..." Ruiz shook his head. "You're giving me evidence," he said. "Evidence is not rambling." The advocate nodded. "Narrative is evidence, too," she added. The sentence went into my nervous system like a vitamin. We took a break so I could pee without counting tiles. When I came back, Eric had moved to the lobby couch and was practicing empathy lines with his eyes closed. He opened them when I passed and murmured, "We could have avoided this." I didn't stop. I didn't answer. I felt the old compulsion, a life's work, to make him feel okay. I let it slide off me like oil. Back in the room, I finished with the lot. I said no. I told the recorder, the advocate, Ruiz the banner. And then I said yes to help. I signed the emergency protective order request. Ruiz explained what it would do and what it could not. "It's a piece of paper," he said, with that rueful honesty I'm beginning to recognize as care. "And it's a lever in a system. Both matter." The second officer returned from outside with a small holding of evidence. Deli camera footage in transit, the delivery driver's information, the tire shop guy's card with grease fingerprint. "Also," she said, almost apologetic, "the church office gave us bell recordings." I nearly laughed. My city had become a symphony of minor miracles. Bells as affidavits. Air conditioners as witnesses. When it was Eric's turn, he chose martyrdom with a twist. "I made mistakes," he said into the polite void. "But I am trying to be a father." He said the line like he believed it exempted him from gravity. He offered a speech about miscommunications and mutual escalation. He did not mention keys, chairs, or the word no. Ruiz didn't argue. He just asked questions that sanded every rhetorical flourish down to a splinter. Did you lock the door from the outside? Did you keep her phone in your pocket? Did you leave the premises when asked by officers? What business is registered to Redline Solutions, LLC? Eric's answers started confident and got damp, like paper left out in the rain. The advocate slid me a pamphlet: resources, safety planning, legal aid, trauma therapists who won't tell you to breathe, without also asking where the fire is. She wrote her cell on the back like a friend who actually means call me. Tasha added, sotto voce, I already made you a digital file. Check your email later. Date-stamped notes, receipts, the lot. I color-coded it because love is organized. When we left the room, Eric tried one last smallness. Can we talk? Without them. I looked at Ruiz. You don't need my permission to ignore him, Ruiz said softly. The advocate angled her body. Again, that quiet shield. I turned my head half an inch toward Eric, not enough to count as eye contact, and said into the air, no. It was my favorite word of the day. Outside, the sky had the exhausted blue of a city that had made it to bedtime. The bells didn't ring, but I could still hear them. I put my hand on Tasha's hatchback hood to feel something warm and solid while we planned the next 12 hours. Clothes for the kids, a Target run for toothpaste, and the brand of cereal that doesn't make Jonah feel betrayed, a locksmith on call, my apartment's app set to send me a code so only I could open the gate. And then, because the internet raised me, I posted an update. This one, on the thread where strangers had been saying, we're here. It felt like tying my rope to a bigger knot. Part 13, Rescue and Immediate Aftermath, Paper, Locks, and the Quiet Between Sirens, / posted 9:03 p.m. I didn't sleep that night so much as doze in shifts while the dishwasher sounded like a tiny ocean. The kids were burritoed on the couch bed because they wanted to fall asleep. In the living room where the TV is in case the news shows mommy, which made my ribs ache and also made me peer review my media choices. Tasha took the first watch like a soldier with a crochet hook. She knits when she's nervous. It looks like a tiny flag being born. Denise organized the fridge. I built a go pile by the door the advocate had recommended. Documents, chargers, inhaler, kids' comfort objects, Isla's purple unicorn, Jonah's laminated card of ocean facts. Ruiz texted at 7:18 a.m. EPRO granted. Served at 7:03 a.m. He was at the apartment complex gate trying to get the manager to buzz him in. He left when we arrived. The sentence was a bridge over a canyon I didn't know I'd been straddling all night. At 9 o'clock, I went to the station with Tasha to sign more forms. Words like false imprisonment, interference with custody, and stalking appeared on papers in fonts that made them look boring, which was comforting. I wanted the law to be allergic to drama. A detective from a domestic violence unit took photos of the blue door, the inside of my forearm where the chair had kissed me too hard, the bobby pin that now looked like a relic with purpose. He asked for the burner. We didn't have it. Eric did. But we had the deli footage, the delivery driver's statement, the tire guys, I heard, don't through a thin door. We had sound. We had timing. We had that video beetle under the folding table, which Ruiz had coaxed from Eric's camera roll while serving the order because hubris had saved it, time-stamped and tagged with a location the court loves more than poetry. We drove to the Ralston unit escorted by a patrol car. The landlord met us with a clipboard and the brittle cordiality of a man who knew his insurance had just woken up. He unlocked the blue door for the officers and waited in the hall. The room looked smaller in daylight, like a liar seen up close. My cup still lay on its side. The donut box, empty and crumpled, like a confession that had lost the shape of words. The AC hummed its old osteoarthritic song. In the bathroom, the help I'd written in soap had dried invisible. The jam still made the lock stick from the outside. One small sabotage that had saved me 10 crucial seconds. The deli napkin under the table leg sat where I'd left it. The torn P.O. box corner still warmed the place it had occupied against my skin, a ghost itch. An officer bagged each breadcrumb like treasure in Ziplocs. The detective took a sample of the water ring from the table even though it felt like overkill until he explained. We like the boring stuff. Juries like maps. He asked me to walk him through the audio. AC on, off, clank. Rail bell, 12 count. Church chime. Plain rumble, fade. He stood in the doorway and listened like a man tuning an instrument. Sound travels, he said, and so will this. Little benediction. Back at my apartment, the locksmith changed the locks with the flourish of a magician revealing an empty hat. He installed a strike plate that could laugh at a shoulder. He added a keyed lock to the fence because, as he put it, locks are not as romantic as movies think, but they are persistent. I wrote that on a sticky note and put it on my fridge. The advocate sat with me on the balcony and spoke quietly about trauma responses that do not care if your to-do list is long. You may get foggy, she said. You may want to clean the baseboards at 2 a.m. You may forget your own email address and remember the AC model forever. She gave me a list of counselors. She scheduled me for a safety planning workshop that included digital hygiene, new passcodes, two-factor authentication, removing shared accounts, teaching Jonah not to announce our location on the iPad to the Roblox chatroom. She didn't say you should. She said, we can, like we were two people carrying a couch down a narrow stairwell. The kids and I ate pancakes for dinner. Jonah asked, is Dad in timeout? I said, Dad has to follow some rules now. Isla said, very seriously, we should make a chart with stickers. I said, the court will handle the stickers, and Denise snorted into her tea. At 10:41 p.m., a full day since the first text, my phone lit up with a number I now recognized, Candace. It rang twice, then a voicemail arrived, frantic and weirdly formal. Maya, this is Candace. I didn't know I thought, look, if you need statements, I will tell them about the lease and the money. I am not involved in that. He told me you were unstable. I'm sorry. Her voice was the sound of a person waking up in a room she thought was decorated differently. I saved the voicemail, sent it to Ruiz, then to Tasha with the caption plot twist and a skull emoji, because humor is a tiny sled in the snow. I slept for 2 hours and dreamed I was in a bell tower pulling a rope that wouldn't move. I woke to the neighbor's cat yowling at a leaf. The world had the audacity to be ordinary. Morning brought the county clerk's stamp on the protective order. It brought text from the school counselor offering to let the kids color in her office if the pickup line felt like too much. It brought 3 DMs from internet strangers who had left abusive partners and now run book clubs where they read sci-fi about women reinventing the rules. It brought a lightness in my chest that felt like the opposite of the AC's hum. It also brought paperwork. Accountability wears beige and commands signatures. I signed with a pen that still smelled faintly like the bathroom's industrial soap. I kept the bobby pin in my pocket, not for locks anymore, but as a reminder that small, boring, relentless acts are how you walk yourself out the door. Part 14, Rebuilding and Accountability, Therapists, Courtrooms, and a New Kind of Quiet, / posted 3:44 p.m. Weeks are elastic in the aftermath. Some stretch, some snap. We move through them like people crossing a river on stones placed by kind hands. The protective order held. Eric violated it once with a bouquet of red roses left on the hood of my car, like an apology that stained. Ruiz documented. The DA filed a violation, and the judge looked at the photo with a face like granite. No contact is no contact, she said, voice low, every vowel a dowel. The custody hearing that had loomed turned into a different proceeding entirely. My attorney, procured via a sliding scale referral, the advocate emailed at midnight like a fairy god lawyer, presented the timeline with a visual I wanted to hang on a wall, a map with dots for the deli, the church, the blue door, the Shell station, the nursery, each connected by lines representing calls, pings, bells. When she played the under-table audio, the courtroom stilled the way sanctuaries do before an amen. You could hear the AC gasp. You could hear Eric's insistence collapse into its own echo. You'll scare the kids. Eric's attorney tried the script where everything is complicated and mutual. The judge did not reward it. She granted me temporary sole legal and physical custody with supervised visitation for Eric at a center with murals and two-way mirrors. She signed off on continued no-contact protections. She ordered Eric to complete a program whose acronym made my skin crawl, but whose curriculum made my shoulders unclench a fraction. She set a review in 6 months. I exhaled a breath I'd been holding since donuts. On the accountability front, charges ticked through the system in their slow, grinding way. False imprisonment moved forward. Stalking attached itself like a lint ball that could become a sweater. Interference with custody stuck. The DA considered coercive control enhancements under a new state statute. My advocate fist-pumped so hard, she almost fell off the folding chair. Eric took a plea on one count and no contest on another. The sentence wasn't TV cinematic. It was measured, probation with strict terms, a batterer intervention program, a long list of don'ts that, if broken, would turn beige paperwork into handcuffs. In therapy, I learned that my nervous system is a guard dog that needs retraining, not scolding. The therapist, soft cardigan, eyes like a lighthouse lantern, taught me box breathing I had already invented, but this time I did it in a room where no one would weaponize my steadying against me. She named things: hypervigilance, fawning, somatic flashbacks that feel like a smell. She told me healing is boring, like good soil. I didn't believe her until a day passed where the most dramatic thing was Jonah melting down over a math worksheet, and I realized my body hadn't scanned the apartment for exits once. We made small domestic repairs that felt like architecture. I put a second deadbolt on the back door. I installed a doorbell camera and practiced not checking it every 10 minutes. The kids helped me build a chore chart with stickers, and because Isla is ruthless, she added a row for me. Brush hair. Eat lunch. Be kind to mommy. I got a smiley face for each, even on days I ate lunch at 3:15 standing over the sink. I met Candace in a conference room at the DA's office, both of us clutching paper cups like talismans. She looked like any woman I could have shared a bench with at a bus stop. Her lipstick was mauve, not a villain's red. She told me she believed Eric because he spoke fluent sorrow and she was raised in its country. She showed me the lease she'd co-signed for the Ralston unit and the text where he'd called me unstable with the same thumbs that texted me, "We're a team," the day Jonah got his asthma diagnosis. She apologized like she was paying a debt that wasn't hers. I told her she didn't owe me penance. She owed herself new nouns. We exchanged numbers. We do not text. Sometimes a bridge is built only for one crossing. The neighborhood knit around us tighter. The deli kid, whose name is Braden, not that kid, keeps a free juice box behind the counter for Jonah's science facts. The tire guy waves without words. The church bells stopped chiming during a renovation week, and I missed them like a person. On the first day they returned, I cried on the balcony and told the cat I wouldn't apologize for it. I learned to love silence differently. Not the brittle quiet of a room where you are being managed. The quiet of a kitchen at 6:12 a.m., where the coffee maker clicks and the fridge hums a note that isn't warning. The quiet of a bedtime where no one texts, "We need to talk," at 10:59. The quiet of a lock turning and meaning safety, not trap. My lawyer asked if I wanted to pursue civil damages. I said I wanted a new set of tires and 3 therapy sessions a week covered and a donation to the shelter where the advocate volunteers. We negotiated something like that. It felt less like revenge than like reallocation of resources back to their rightful ledger. On the internet, the thread I started grew legs. People told me their bells, how they triangulated safety with a corner store clerk and a bus driver and a neighbor with eyes like a hawk. People sent me playlists of songs that have pulled them out of bad rooms. People corrected me gently when I said I should have been smarter, writing, "You were smart enough to save yourself." I saved those comments like recipes. When the review hearing landed on the calendar, my body trembled for no good reason for 3 days beforehand. At the hearing, the judge looked at progress reports and said, "We will keep protections in place and revisit visitation with caution." She looked at me and added, "You are doing a good job." I didn't cry in the courtroom. I cried in the parking lot, and then laughed because a pigeon landed weirdly, and because joy and grief sometimes share a scarf. I keep the bobby pin in a little dish by the door now, next to the bowl where we toss our keys and Lego pieces, and a pine cone Jonah swears is historic. Some mornings, before work, I touch it and say out loud, "Small acts, big map." It's corny. It's mine. Part 15, Reflection and Advice, for anyone counting the bells, /posted 8 a.m. I've been asked what I would tell the version of me who took the donut box through the chain door, and the me who got into the passenger seat, and the me who sat in the blue room with the AC singing its arthritic hymn. I hate the genre of advice that sounds like a dare. I don't have platitudes. I have a map and a handful of practices that tasted like cardboard at first and now taste like bread. Tiny, boring, relentless. Survival didn't look like a cinematic sprint. It looked like a deli napkin scraped with a thumbnail, a voice memo with a street name disguised as a sigh, a code word about fruit, a bobby pin, a breadcrumb on a dash cam. If you're in a bad room, do the small things that feel like nothing. They are not nothing. Boredom is a camouflage you can wear while you build the bridge out. Optics are leverage. Abusers who love their image underestimate communities. They think the audience is theirs. Choose your stage, public, bells, bright lights, when and if it is safe. Teach the cashier your name. Tip the barista. Not because kindness is a defense, but because having 3 people who will say, "I saw her," can lasso the world to your side when procedure needs a boost. Narrative is evidence. Write it down. Text a friend. Email yourself. Tell a thread of strangers if that is where you can bear to start. When someone, even a kind someone, says it's complicated, remember complexity can be measured. Put timestamps on it. Juries like maps. So do exhausted mothers who worry their minds are unreliable. Codes with your people. Pineapple. Do you want the fern back? Words that can pass in daylight and mean, call the advocate. Ping my location. Keep the school from releasing the kids. You do not owe anyone your codes, except maybe a future you who needs them at 11:21 a.m. Sound is a witness. I didn't know I'd be able to diagram the city by bells, rails, and flight paths, but learning to listen like a cartographer made my world navigable when sights were stripped. If you are somewhere you don't choose, listen. Name things. The mind loves a grid. So do cops and clerks and judges when you need them to. The system is a maze. Bring guides. Ruiz could not kick a door simply because I deserved it. That hurt. It also meant when he did act, it held. Bring the advocate. Bring the stubborn aunt. Bring the friend who color codes evidence like a love language. Procedure is not an enemy. It's a river. Get a boat. Shame is a lock. Don't hold the key for him. I have replayed the moment at the gas station more times than I will ever tell my therapist. Why did I get in the car? Because I was trained to manage his storms. Because the world rewards women who make everyone comfortable. Because I am a human person. If you're there, I am not assigning you blame. I am offering you a hand. Come on. We can climb over the shame together while it growls and pouts. Safety planning is love. 2-factor authentication. New locks. Paper duplicates of essential documents. A go pile. A list on the fridge that says eat lunch. Teach the kids that secrets are not safety. Teach them that adults are responsible for adult feelings. Accountability is not theater. The legal outcomes here were measured, not explosive. It's boring on purpose. It's paperwork and programs and a judge who looks like autumn and says, no contact means no contact. It doesn't fix your dreams. It does change tomorrow's weather. You get to keep your softness. I thought I had to become iron to survive. Instead, I became water that carved a path around rock and found the sea. The deli kid, the tire guy, the church bells, the woman with a stroller who turned her body into a shield, the officer who said, "I'm sorry you had to hold on longer," the advocate who said, "We can," the friend who knit through the night, the aunt who bought car cheese. If you're someone reading this at 2:17 a.m., with your phone under your pillow and a stomach like a clenched fist, I don't know your details. I won't pretend I do. I know that if your gut is whispering, it's learned your life in a language that doesn't care if anyone believes it. Write down what it says. Hide a note in a bathroom. Teach a friend a fruit. Call a hotline from a grocery store bathroom and hang up if you panic. They won't be mad. Walk toward bells if you can. If you can't, I promise I'll believe you from here. A coda because I like neat endings. Last week, the kids and I walked to the park. Jonah scooted. Isla collected rocks that were neither pretty nor distinguishable, but were apparently rare. We passed the church as the bells chimed 3 notes. Pause. 3 notes. Jonah said, "That means lunchtime." Isla said, "No, it means the ice cream man is coming." I said, "It means we live here. It's not happily ever after. It's happily for now. It's the AC hum in my kitchen meaning nothing but cold air. It's a lock I turn that only opens from my side. It's the map I built in the dark, pinned now to the wall of a life I'm allowed to call mine."